Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Well, this is the best amplifier in the world, in my opinion. The AudioNote OTO PHONO signature. This is a review of that amp. I've heard basically all the models that there are of it throughout the years. I've heard a lot of them modified. I've heard a lot of them being restored. I personally own one, the older version. The specific version that I'm covering here is actually the newest one that they've made, I think within the last 2 years. Personally, I wish I owned this amplifier. It is a very different amplifier from the one that I own, even though it's the basically the exact same model. In the audio note world, when you get something that's the newest, especially in regards to this particular model, OTO, it just gets a lot better. And what you have to realize is that I don't think it's just with audio note, but generally with I would say amplifiers, that they have a tendency of maturing with the years, so they get a bit more warmish, a bit more forgiving, perhaps a bit more heavy. So that also plays in a small part. But I've made a very, very thorough review of this amplifier here, and you can always just I'm gonna make this video as short as possible. You can always just go through my notes here, stop the video, go through my notes, get all the details. I know this amplifier inside out. I personally think that it's the best amplifier on the market, simply because of the reason of you're getting the transistor amplifier sound at a high level, you're getting a tube amplifier sound at the high level, you're getting a built-in RIAA at a high level, and for the extremely low price of what currently is around $7,000 in the US. It will change with time. And because the low, mid, and high-end users in hi-fi all are able to reach for this amplifier, that for me makes it the best amplifier in the world. Because yes, I feel that there are 10 other amplifiers that kind of beat this, that are all basically audio note higher end amplifiers, but they cost a lot more. So people in the low and the mid end of the hi-fi spectrum, they can't really reach for those. And considering the fact that the level of high-end sound that you get from this AudioNote OTO PHONO signature, I just feel that that's kind of what I mean by it being the best amplifier in the world. It does not have a certain type of sound. It's a chameleon in disguise. So let me just quickly go through the notes. You can always stop me. Stop the video here. Like I said, it's its personality, the way it adapts itself to the music instead of dictating to the music. Oh, I'm gonna be like this, so you just have to live with it or not, or buy another brand. That really annoyed me when I had so many other amplifiers in the past that I had to listen to the music through the gear's interpretation, that the gear was almost never really fully tuned into the music, telling me how the music wants me to hear the music. It's always like the amplifier, how it wanted to interpret the sound through its own style, and that's what I really like about this amplifier, the emotional intelligence that this thing has. And just to prove a point, I found this random picture on the internet here with some kind of emotional scale here, as you can see. And I feel that a lot of gear, pretend hi-fi gear, is kind of stuck at these levels here, which is like here, 3.5 here, 2.6 and 5, disinterest, boredom. You can see all of these. Some call them tone levels, some call them emotional levels, whatever. I think there are even some people from Scientology and psychology and all kinds of weird people using these things. But I just wanted to. This was like the best way for me to tell you the wider spectrum of emotions. I feel that a lot of gear on the market in the pretend hi-fi zone is stuck in this, where I feel that the stuff like the OTO just goes all the way from the top to the bottom and adapts, and that's what makes it so fantastic, for me at least, the emotional intelligence. And here are some specifics where I listened to this song on the OTO, and I have some very interesting things to say. I won't say it here now because I don't want this video to be too long so people can't find it or won't click on it. But just read the stuff that I mention here. I think this track especially this was an eye-opening experience for me listening to this recently. I've owned this amplifier for a couple of years now. I've also heard this version here on the newer one, and I mean, even on the older one it sounds fantastically good, but the newer one just has a lot more deep sound, a lot more black level, a lot more just a lot more evolved. And again, the emotional intelligence. On my previous gear, I would never ever be able to listen to music like this. This is a great example of how the OTO is so good. This would just be disgusting, gray, numb, unclear, ugly over there, like I've written here. Very flat emotionally, where you just don't want to gravitate towards it. So yeah, you can read about that, I wrote some interesting things about that. Some other stuff that I wrote here. Yeah, it's to me it feels the OTO. What's so great about it is that I want to own a lot of expensive gear on the market. I want to have a Burmeister. I want to have a Negra. I want to have a Griffin, a Spectral, all kinds of expensive brands, and I feel that the OTO gives me that. So when I have the OTO, it feels like I've got access to an audio store, an expensive audio store, where I can just once every month go and pick a new amplifier that's 10, 20, 50, 100, $200,000, and then I can just put it back, and then I can just take a new amplifier and then just play with that for like a month or two if I want to. That I've never had that experience before with an amplifier. It was always an old daddy tube sound, or a very analytical sound, or very certain type of this or that type of sound. And that's what I feel is so fantastically great about the OTO. Every single thing that I did on the amp, rolling tubes, trying cables, even changing my circuit breaker that fed the power to the amplifier. Every single thing I could hear, I could get a feedback from anything basically, just changing the what do you call it? The solder on the banana plugs on my speaker cables. I could hear that difference. With a lot of other amplifiers previously, I wouldn't be able to hear a thing like that. It would just sound the same, or it would sound different in a way I couldn't really put my finger on, But it's the feedback that you get from it, direct feedback here and now, telling you all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. And of course, you have to reach a certain level in order to zoom in on the good stuff, because it isn't a thing that dominates and helps you and, you know, powers up a heavy small speaker in a big room. It isn't an amp like that, you know. If you want an amp like that, then you take an amp for that purpose, you know. It's not that type of amp, but it can basically become that amp if you want to create the conditions, you know, the entire setup around the amp. You can make that happen if you really want to. And that's what's just so great about this thing, you know. I've never had an experience like that where every time I listen to music, it feels like new music, you know. Every time I'm basically listening to the same 50 songs again and again. And I never really get to listen to all the other stuff of my collection, because the same 50 songs that I'm listening to just sound so damn good. Even though I'm listening to them again and again and again, I just can't get enough of it to go over to that part of my collection. And the rest of my collection, I really want to listen to it, but I just don't have the time. So I just end up listening to the same 50 tracks. And then, yeah, once in a while, I do get a random track here and there and listen to it. But that's what's just so amazing. It just feels like a new sound, like every time I turn it on, somehow it sounds just slightly different. And I can hear what time of day it is. I can hear the degree that my DAC has warmed up, the degree of, what do you call it? The amount of hours that my streamer has been on. And that's just so rare to have that. So I wrote a lot of things, very nerdy things for you guys to fully understand the space that you should put this in, the prices, if you want to change the sound to become a bit more soft, if you want a bit more heavy with a bit more power, what you can do, the levels of sound after this, if you want something that's the same level from a different brand, which I basically only consider the Spectral with the top Wilson audio speakers to be, you know, like the opposite side of the coin. If I want this level of sound, that's the only thing that I really feel is up there. And possibly Bob Carver 180 monoblocks with an M3 Audio preamp. That's a bit closer to this sound. Not quite there, but I haven't really heard this type of level, this amount of gears from a piece of gear that's below $10,000. Never heard it. Even a lot of the 20, 30, 40 $1,000 amps, a lot of them also don't really get this this good, even though they do a lot of other stuff that's good in this and that way. So I feel that I'm just scrolling down and down and down. You guys can always just read it from the start to it. I feel that like this is the most optimal solution amplifier, I would say, for most people in the world when they want to reach the top end sound. Get this thing, get some kind of an audio note speaker. I've put the ones that I recommend in, fit it into a certain type of space. If it becomes too big, forget this amplifier. If you're getting into 50 plus square meters of room, forget this OTO. You might possibly want to go with the Big Brother one, but again, this is not really that type of amplifier. This is an amplifier for the smaller type of rooms. I would say 15 to 35 square meters, in my opinion. But all the information that you need is on this page if you're interested. I've used several years trying to figure this thing out. the good and the bad side. I would say the only bad side about this amp is that it doesn't compensate. It doesn't help. And when you compensate and help, to a certain degree, you raise the level of sound when you're dealing with really shitty gear. But if you want the top end sound, you can't compensate. You can't help. You can't dominate. You have to tell the truth. And that's what I feel that this amplifier is doing. So yeah, I also really want to, in a way, own the most expensive spectral gear with the most expensive Wilson Audio or Martin Design speaker. But again, we're talking about $1 million class of sound versus a sound that's more likely, I'm going to say about $50,000 if you want the entire audio note system. So it kind of puts it in perspective, you know? Do you want to pay $1 million, or do you want to pay around 50,000 US dollars for about the same level of sound? I mean, for me, it's pretty obvious what's best here, and just value-wise, this thing takes the cake. Yeah, there's a bit in the Jinro. Yeah, there's a bit in the Tomai. Yeah, there's a bit of extra stuff in the Ongaku. The Ongaku is definitely more solid, deeper. But it's a more, I would call it almost a more masculine type of sound that I'm not really fully into. I just, you know, every piece of audio note amp just has its own different style. So I just feel like if this was an ice cream, you know, it would be like, you know, trying an Italian ice cream, and when you're trying an Italian ice cream, you know, a really good one, you're not really thinking about if it's going to be vanilla or chocolate or whatever, because they're all really good on that level. You just want to have something that kind of gives you vanilla and then chocolate and then probably like raspberry and melon or whatever, Toblerone, when you're on that level. And that's what I think the OTO is. You know, I think it's just that level of versatility where it kind of dials into the gear that you connect to it, you know, and it tells you the story of like, here's your gear, here is what it's doing, that's the sound. Do you want it to sound like a Macintosh amplifier? Okay, let's put these cables on. Then it gets over to that type of sound, you know? And that's what makes it the best amplifier for me in the world. The versatility, the price. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's the most thorough review I've ever done. Just go back and pause the video and look at the notes, so you get all the information. And yeah, that's me logging off. I hope you guys like this. Have a nice day.